All right. I'm gonna do an audio blog today because that's what I want to do. No, there's a couple reasons. I think this deserves an audio blog at the very least. I want to talk about the world and America in particular as an American citizen and things that are going on or possibly going on. I think we're at a strange, never before seen, at least in this context, sort of tipping point as a planet of citizens and societies and countries, and as American citizens in particular. Now what I'm talking about is everything that's going on with politics and our economy, which is the source of politics and war and jobs and everything else. So what I want to talk about is our economy. I don't know much about economy. I don't know much about history, even American history. But if you observe what's going on now and the things that we can know, that A, we're an extremely rich country. We've been an extremely rich country for a long time. Yet, B, we have an establishment called the Federal Reserve that is on our money, that prints our money, but we don't know anything about them. We don't really know anything about the Federal Reserve. And if I'm wrong, please, I'll be the first person to say I'm completely wrong and this knowledge is readily available. But I don't really know anything about the Federal Reserve. I know way more about the government. And I don't know that much about the government, but I know way more about them than I do about the Federal Reserve. So it's only logical. It's not this conspiracy theory thing taking over. But just in terms of what we know, we're headed down a bad road, and we have been for a long time. It's a bad idea to have this organization, this central bank, this whatever it is, part of the government, kind of part of the government, whatever the Federal Reserve is. It's a bad idea to have this completely non-transparent unit control your economy, because whoever controls the economy controls everything. That's not illogical. That's not fear taking over. That's not conspiracy theory. That's a fact. Whoever controls the printing of money and controls the economy controls absolutely everything. So it's a scary thought when you look at it. It's a scary reality when you look at it, that we don't know about the people who control our country. It's like this weird triangle. Yes, it's whoever prints the money and controls the economy at the source. Yes, it's the government who spends the money. And yes, it's the people that have to to give a reason for the money to be generated, that work so the money is generated. And it's like, I feel like all three of us, all 3 points of that triangle are not doing what we're supposed to. So no point in the triangle is trying to correct anything else. It's just this triangle of mistakes. Whether some people know more than other people at different points in the triangle, nobody's doing enough. And of course there are less people in different points of the triangle. When it comes to civilians, you have, hundreds of millions of people in that triangle, in that point in the triangle. So it's difficult number one, we know less. We are less informed than anybody else. We are further away from the economy in terms of knowledge than anyone else. But number two, it's hard to do anything even if people questioned it, which they don't, but it's hard to even question it because we are just working and we have our own lives, and they don't have to do with power and controlling the economy, and there are hundreds of millions of it. So it's a difficult job, even though in the end I think we'll have to be the ones, if anything's going to change, it will be because of us. And then you have this other point in the triangle that's seems to be a little less ignorant, that knows more than we do, obviously. At least people who are higher up, they definitely know a lot more than we do about the economy and how these things work. There's less of them, and they're organized. We call them the government. We have this huge government now, but they know more than we do about the economy. And they don't share. They are not transparent either. They don't tell us what's going on. And then you get to this other point in the triangle, the top point of the triangle, which is the Fed, which is the Federal Reserve. This source, which is a few amount of people, I'm assuming, the central bank, whoever operates the central bank, or whoever it is that's controlling this money, who know the most, who have the most knowledge, but share the least. That growing lack of transparency in each part of the triangle, where as each point knows a lot more and is willing to share a lot less, has more power and less transparency, that's bad. We're at a bad point. Just looking at that reality logically, we are at a bad point in the world and in America. In America, because we are in huge debt, the rich are constantly getting richer while the poor get poorer, and I'm not talking about, millionaires. I'm talking about we have people who have tens of billions of dollars, not to mention the people who control all of the money, no matter how many trillions that is, or whatever it is. There's the people who control all of that. What do they do with the money? We don't even know who they are. So we're in all of this debt, and we're creating these huge decade-plus long wars that kill innocent people, lots of innocent people. It's really, I don't know how you could argue that they are, you know what I mean? Just what the information we hear about drones and that, most of it is shut out. Most of it, it only makes sense that they're not feeding it because they're not transparent. They don't tell us. So all these negative things are happening, and every point in the triangle is responsible. And it's negative. It's bad. We're not headed down a good road at all. I'm not one of these people who's saying World War III is guaranteed, or that claims to know enough. I don't know. But I do know enough to say that shit is bad. Shit is not good. The government is not transparent, and they're growing. They have these wars. They have for a long time that just simply aren't justified. They simply don't make sense, even considering 9/11. They're completely illogical in terms of 9/11 at this point. To think that it would take us, 12 years to take down this organization or the people in charge of that one event, is outrageous. It's outrageous. We know that they can tap everything. I mean, they admitted that they can tap anything in China. You don't think they knew everything going on in, Iraq or wherever these things are? There's just a lot of questions, or a lot of things that don't make sense because they're holding all this knowledge in these 2 points of the triangle. And we're responsible too. We're another point of the triangle that has to make it work. And we're not asking for any of the knowledge. We're okay being, in the mist. I'm not okay with it anymore. I am okay with it because every day I live, but I'm growing more and more to get where I'm really not okay with it, where I'm gonna, change my life and not, not just contribute because I have to these ideas without doing anything about it. So this is a long video and I went on, but it's a blog post, so sometimes they're long. I don't know, I just think that we really need to question how much knowledge we possess, because we really have a very tiny amount of the knowledge and a huge amount of the power if we unite and care. But if we don't even want the knowledge, well then whatever happens, we're asking for it, whether it's us continuing to kill people in a far off land with our tax dollars, or our debt going from 15 trillion to 20 trillion, and then whatever choices they try and make from there, whether it's our government getting bigger and bigger and more independent and, can't really be less transparent. We really can't blame anybody if something does happen horrible to us. We really can't blame anybody, because everything happens because of effects that have already taken place. And a lot of effects have already happened that we've sat by and ignored and said we don't need the knowledge, or we pretend and say we have the knowledge, everything is great, they know what they're doing. No, that's not what reality is. Reality is something specific, that these 2 points in that economic social triangle know. Somebody out there knows it. And together we could figure it out, and we could make demands, and we could stop just wasting money and contributing to this negative path we're headed down. So I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about a lot lately with what they're doing with these genetically modified organisms, where they don't even have to tell you what's in there, or to show us studies on the effects of what it is and why they're putting it in the food, and you know what I mean? They don't have to do that. This wiretapping thing where everybody is potentially a victim. No, we're headed down the opposite of what our credo is, the opposite of everything they told us and is written down in the Constitution of what our founders wanted America to be. We tried to get away from that sort of empirical rule, and now we're just quickly running towards empirical rule. This is bad, people. This is really bad. And I know it doesn't seem like it, because we all still just wake up and we have our money, whether it's just enough for shelter and food, or it's enough for a mansion and a Bentley. It's still comfort. And I know it doesn't seem like anything is bad, because you don't have to look for the knowledge. But question, honestly, what you really know and where we're really at, and just look up some global and government events and stuff that's happening. It's not a good road that we are headed down, all of us. Every point in that triangle, we're all choosing to take a bad path, just flow with it. And it's not a good thing. We should be a country that is $15 trillion in surplus, and it all goes to help people around the world and make sure there's no homeless and there's no slavery. We could be that country. We could have easily been that country at this point in time that's really the country that everybody looks up to, because we're morally right and we have the wealth and we're using it and we're improving humanity, our species, because we actually want it to improve and make sure that it lasts. We're the complete opposite of that country. It's hard to see, but it's completely true, and there's nothing I can say that can make you look at the reality. But just accept that, realize that you are very far from being infallible. Every one of us is very far from being infallible, and we might be wrong about anything.